What's going on, guys? Mega Gig back with another video. Today we are taking a look at the OG Charge Barb, and this is going to be an actual build guide. Unlike my video a while back that was just kind of a look, I did a look at both Charge Barbs, and of course we'll have a build guide on the other one coming. But today we are taking a look at the full-on Charge Barb. This build does rely on charge as its main source of damage, and Seismic Slam is essentially just our Fury Dump. It's not really going to do a bunch of damage here. All of our damage is coming from Furious Charge and then Battle Rage. But let's go over the build, and then we'll run a Rift, and I'll explain how it works and all that. So for this build, we are running a Ring of Royal Grandeur, which means we're going to need two different sets. We're going to need 5 pieces of the Immortal King sets. There's a couple pieces you can swap out, for instance, like the shoulders or the hands or whatever. But you need 5 pieces of Immortal Kings and 3 pieces of Raycors for this to work. So for my 5 pieces, I have the torso, the head, the hands, the two-handed weapon, and the waist for the Immortal Kings set. And we're taking advantage of all 6-piece, or the 6-piece bonus because of the Ring of Royal Grandeur. So the 2-piece set bonus, Call of the Ancients, last until they die. And this is important. They will last for quite a while, but in higher greater rifts, like 85, 90, and above, they will die on certain packs. You need to watch out for that because you'll lose damage mitigation and you'll lose your 6-piece set bonus if they die. So keep that in mind. The 4-piece set bonus reduced the cooldown of Wrath of the Berserker and Call of the Ancients by 3 seconds for every 10 Fury you spend with an attack. That's basically what Seismic Slam is here for. It's a big Fury dump, and 2 or 3 uses of this, and it's going to reset the cooldown of both of these pretty quick. And if we're in big mobs, we're going to be filling our Fury in 1 or 2 charges. And then the 6-piece set bonus, while both Wrath of the Berserker and Call of the Ancients is active, you deal 1,500% increased damage. This is why I was saying that on the 2-piece set bonus you need to be wary of Call of the Ancients lasting until they die, because if they do die and you don't notice, and that has happened to me a couple of times actually, because you don't really expect them to die and they do, is all of a sudden your damage will fall way, way, way off. So keep that in mind. You need to have both of them active to take effect for that. And then the Raycors, the 3 pieces I have, are the legs, the feet, and the shoulders. With the Ring of Royal Grandeur, we're taking advantage of the 4-piece set bonus. 2-piece set bonus, Furious Charge, refunds a charge if it only hits 1 enemy. And the 4-piece set bonus, Furious Charge, gains the effect of every rune and deals 1,000% increased damage. So a big damage boost there as well, on top of our 1,500% increase from this. So very important. Cooldown reduction isn't a huge necessity in this build, so we're running a Vitality Gem in the helm, and we've got all diamonds to increase our resistances. If you're tough enough, feel free to run Strength Gems, Flawless Rubies, or whatever. Probably don't put Vitality Gems in all this, but definitely in the helm, it's perfectly fine. For our wrist, we are running Ancient Parthan Defenders. Each stunned enemy within 25 yards reduce your damage taken by 11%. I'm running these to obviously mitigate more damage. Another option, if you're not worried about damage, where are they? I've got them somewhere here, but they've got intel on them. Yeah, Strong Arm Braces are another option. Just because you're going to be knocking enemies back with Furious Charge. So if you want them to take more damage, that's an option. But we are going to be stunning enemies with Furious Charge because it gains the effect of all runes, and Cold Rush stuns or freezes them. So this is going to increase our toughness. Because even with our Band of Might, we're still going to be kind of squishy, which is kind of my gem setup, which we'll go over in just a second. So we're using a Hellfire Amulet as well. For the Superstition passive is what I'm using to again increase our damage mitigation, reduce all non-physical damage attacks by 20%, and you also have a chance to gain 2 Fury, which is kind of nice. It'll help you dump your Fury a little faster but more often than not, you're going to be topping out on Fury very, very fast anyways. We are using a Convention of Elements, of course, and then, like I said, a Ring of Royal Grandeur. Gems, we are using Bane of the Stricken. This build does crazy AoE damage in big density, but it's kind of suffers on single targets, so the Bane of the Stricken is really going to help when it comes to single targets, elites, Rift Guardian, so on and so forth. And this build does do damage based on your speed on Furious Charge, so we are using a Wreath of Lightning in our amulet to increase our speed, basically, and get us doing more and more damage. And of course, it has the little proc as well that does a little bit of damage each second when that's on too. And then I'm also using an Esoteric of Alteration. This is, again, to boost my toughness because it's kind of a weak build. If you want to go full on damage, feel free to run either a Band of Might, or more than likely you'll run a Bane of the Trapped. That's going to be your go-to third gem if you're not running Esoteric. But if you're running like a speed version or a farming version of this, then you may end up using Bane of the Powerful and Bane of the Trapped here, and then get rid of Stricken for one of those two. So, yeah. As for the cube, we are using Standoff. This is where Furious Charge deals damage equal to 500% of your bonus movement speed. This is why we want to have that movement speed from our Wreath of Lightning gem, and then we're also getting movement speed in other areas too. So the more movement speed, the better. You can even put movement speed on your boots if you like. And then we're using Vile Ward. Furious Charge deals 35% increased damage for each enemy hit while charging. This is part of the reason that Furious Charge deals so much damage in big groups, is it's really getting boosted by this. And then, of course, you're getting your bonus from Battle Rage too. So this is a must on this build. And then, of course, we're using Band of Might for toughness. After casting Furious Charge, we gain 80% reduction for damage. Now, that is huge, but on this particular build, if that's the only damage reduction you have, your toughness is still going to be quite low. When I tried a full-on damage version of this, my toughness was only like in the 2 to 2.5 million, 2.5 million range, and that's pretty low considering my health pool on this particular build. And we do sustain from life on hit, but we don't really have a lot of life on hit. It is a little more than just base, but our main life sustain is going to be life per fury spent, which you'll want to have on your weapon and probably on your belt too. As for the skills, we are using Seismic Slam Rumble. This is our Fury dump. If you like, you can use Ancient Spear, Boulder Toss to dump your Fury, because again, this isn't going to be our main damage dealer. So I'm just using Seismic Slam here. Furious Charge, Merciless Assault. It doesn't really matter what rune you pick, but this is a physical build, so I'm going with Merciless Charge, or Merciless Assault rune, just to keep it physical. If you were running a cold build, you would select this rune, Lightning, and etc. etc. Call of the Ancients together as one. 50% of all damage dealt to you is instead divided evenly between your Ancients. So another reason to keep your Ancients alive, guys, for the damage mitigation. Battle Rage Bloodshed. This is a non-negotiable skill, especially on this build. You get the increased damage, increased critical hit strength, critical hit chance, and then deal damage equal to 20% of your recent critical hits to enemies within 20 yards. And in big mobs, this is going to translate into just an enormous amount of AoE damage, guys. So again, Battle Rage Bloodshed, it's in pretty much all of the Barbarian builds anyways. Sprint Marathon. We're using Sprint for increased movement speed, Marathon for even more increased movement speed, and it lasts a second longer than normal. Because, yeah, otherwise it only lasts for 3 seconds. And we're dealing damage based on our increased movement speed, so we are using the Marathon rune. Then, of course, Wrath of the Berserker Insanity for increased damage overall. We're using Rampage, where you're going to be killing a lot of trash very fast, so this skill comes in handy. Berserker Rage. We're going to be at maximum Fury most of the time while dealing damage with Furious Charge. The only time we're not is when we dump our Fury. But then after, if you're in a group of 3 or 4 even, or even on one, you're going to get back to maximum Fury pretty fast. So we're taking Berserker Rage. Another option is Brawler, if you like, if you want to do that damage all the time. And then we are taking Ruthless, deal 40% damage to enemies below 30% health. Now, I'm also using Relentless. While below 35% life, all skills cost 50% less Fury, which we don't really care about. But life per Fury spent is doubled, which is huge. That takes us up to over 6,000 life per Fury spent. And then all damage taken is reduced by 50% as well. So this really stacks really nicely with Esoteric of Alteration, with the damage reduction below 50% life and then below 35%. And then the life per Fury spent is doubled. So we have those two proccing, increasing our toughness by an immense amount below 50 and below 35. And then our life per Fury spent is doubled, which means we're going to be able to essentially heal all the way back up. So it kind of gives us a chance to survive. If you're not running Relentless and you want to go full on damage, you'll take Brawler instead of Relentless. For Paragon Points, and I actually don't have this set up right, you want maximum Fury. Obviously, you want maximum movement speed. The reason you want maximum Fury is because we're going to be dumping that Fury as a reset. Again, not much for the damage, but the more Fury we have, the more we're going to reset our Wrath of Berserker and Call the Ancients. And then we're also going to heal for a crazy amount. So maximum Fury and, of course, maximum movement speed because of how much damage we're doing. Because we're doing damage equal to 500% of our maximum Fury. And then I'm throwing some points in Vitality because my Vitality's low. Let's actually go with 300, and then I'll put the rest in here. And that's not quite where we were at, is it? Where was I? Was I at 400 maybe? There we go. Close enough, close enough. And then the other Paragon Points, we're doing critical hit chance first, then damage, then cooldown reduction, then attack speed. Neither of these really come into play in this build, but cooldown reduction is going to help you a little more than attack speed. So cooldown reduction third, and then attack speed fourth. Resist all, armor, life, and life regen, and then life per hit, area damage, resource cost reduction, and gold fine. And if you're on really easy content doing this build, you know, if you're leveling up a character and you happen to have all the gear or whatever, then you probably don't need life per hit first, so you can opt for area damage first and then life per hit. Resource cost reduction isn't really going to do a whole lot for us in this build because we're dumping all of our Fury anyways. So yeah, that is pretty much the build. I'm running the main follower that I always do here. She has a chance to stun because of Wayward and Windseeker, and then I've got an Oculus Ring, which does work really nicely in this build, but only if the Oculus Ring ends up in a good spot. Since you're going to have to be in complete melee range, there's no if, ands, or buts. But if that Oculus Ring does happen to be in a good spot, then it's going to really help you. S of Johan is really nice in this build. She can bunch up all kinds of enemies, and then you can just go in and blow them up. And then, of course, your follower can't die token here. And then I'm running Charm, Powered Armor, Erosion, and Focus Mind. And that is pretty much the build, guys. This build is really fantastic in high density. If you get a bad rift and there's just no density, or especially if you get a lot of shielding, say you get an elite pack of 3 blues and they're shielding, if you're hitting them while they're shielded, you're not going to be resetting your Merciless Charge or your Furious Charge at all. So you do have to kind of be wary of that. This build is very easy to play, but very hard to master. There's actually a lot of skill that goes into really mastering this skill, or this build. If you want to see someone play this really, really good, check out Chainer. Just do a YouTube search for him and you can see him. He's really good. And there's other people out there that are really good as well. I'm not one of them. I'm more of a bull in a china shop kind of guy. But I'll show you how the build plays anyways, and we'll kind of discuss it as we're playing, as we do. And I'm just going to run a 90 today. And yeah, you'll get in, And I've got the numlock trick set up here, so I'm going to get the numlock trick on my Furious Charge and make sure both of these are up. The numlock trick does work on this build, although if you're holding Furious Charge for too long, it will stop resetting until you let off of the charge. So basically, yeah, we are charging around. You can see we've got good movement speed. Make sure you're dumping your Fury to reset your Wrath of Berserker and Call of the Ancients, and then spam to the best that you can. Spam your charge, especially on your physical roll. Get prepared when you see it coming up. When you're on your lightning roll, kind of make sure all your buffs are up and ready to go, and then you can spam your physical roll on the elite pack the entire time. Now, if you're not hitting, I think it's 4 enemies. I believe in the past I've said 3, but I think it's 4 enemies. If you're not hitting at least 4 or 5 enemies, whoa, you are you're not going to be regaining those stacks. And if you're not hitting only 1 enemy, you're not going to be regaining those stacks. So that's where you kind of have to be careful. If your Wrath of the Berserker is ready to be cast and you're about to dump your Fury, go ahead and cast it. That way it gets the benefit of the cooldown reduction. And I'm going to go ahead and resummon those. Remember, Wrath of the Berserker and Call of the Ancients needs to stay up all of the time, 100%. If it drops, you're going to lose a lot of damage. 1500% to be precise. And you don't have to worry about your Ancients too much unless you get something like beams like this, and then they will start to die. You may see them drop off. Earlier on the last Elite Pack, it did drop off to 2 for a moment. And even with Esoteric, you can see our damage, or our toughness is only in the like 350 million range. It only really goes up when our health drops below 50%, and then 35% for their Relentless passive, or the not Relentless. What is it? Ruthless, I think. Yeah, remember, make sure you're setting up for your physical roll. And you can see we're not hitting enough enemies, or only 1 enemy. So we're losing some stacks on there. So make sure you've kind of saved up stacks. This should be enough to... Except we lost all our stacks. This is when it gets really hard on this build. When you only have a couple of enemies and you can't hit enough to reset. This is when the build kind of gets hard. Normally you would kind of move on and see if you can't bunch some more enemies up, but we were really close to killing them, and to try and drag them on this build, since you don't really have a crowd control to drag enemies along, it gets, if you're not in the right position, it gets really hard to drag enemies along. You can kind of try and wrangle them up, but since we're stunning them, there you see my Wrath of Berserker drop for a second. Not a big deal, just dump your Fury, and you'll reset it. And this is generally a really good floor. It hasn't been that great, but this is really nice, so I may have spoke too soon. We'll go ahead and dump all of that. And then stand right in the middle of these. We got that... we got that shrine, which is really, really nice. My favorite shrine. And did we get them both? No, we didn't. There we go. Was there a 3rd elite in there? Or was it just the 2? I thought there was only 2. But... and you can see we're down to 2 Ancients now, so we'll go ahead and summon them. And then we're going to dump our Fury on these guys to reset, because our Wrath of Berserker was getting kind of low. And then, yeah, we'll just kind of kill this stuff. Especially if the trash is grouped up really nice. go ahead and kill it. And that's the end of the level, but we've got some stuff here to kill. And you can see how fast we fill up our Fury. Depending on how many mobs we have, it's 2 to 3 charges. And then if it's only one mob, I think it's like 6, maybe 7. But you are charging very, very quickly. So you still fill up on Fury, you know, very, very quickly. Now this is when it kind of gets a little hairy, when we're not hitting enough enemies to recharge to get our stacks. So I'm going to run up here. And we've got another elite. See if we can't kind of convince him to follow us here. It'll be worth the extra little bit of time. We're going to use our physical roll. I'll see if I can't get this guy to come back. And he's not really wanting to follow us. There he showed up, I think. And this is where the skill of the build starts to come in areas like this. You'll need to start kind of charging around, and I'm still not good at it, but it's really best to save your stacks if you can. Charge around like this and try and save your stacks for your physical roll to hopefully burn them down, which we completely screwed that up. And then this is where you start to lose a lot of time if you can't kill them fast and you don't have enough stuff to reset. And so when I kill this little guy, I'm just going to save these up here. I'm probably going to... And now my Wrath of Berserker dropped off. I'm probably just going to move on because I'm not good enough to... So annoying because they're really mobile mobs. And this is kind of why I'm not a huge fan of the build. It is a load of fun, but I don't really care for the limitations like this on it, and I don't have enough patience to get really good with it, to be honest. This one guy, if he would just die. And we're stuck. But we're going to unload on him here. On the physical roll. There we go. And I'm going to skip that guy because his mobs are really annoying. Go ahead and dump that. Alright, we've got a power shrine. Just unload here. Good, we've got some blues. Make sure we don't get hit by those things. There we go. That power shrine was nice. Now, this build has a ton of potential. Chainer already did. I think he did 115 with this, if I'm correct, which I've been wrong before. But this build, like I said, it requires a lot of density, and you're not going to be pushing at the top level of this one without a good fished rift for some good density. If you end up with something like I just had on the other floor, and there's no other density around to drag, we had explored the whole floor. It was really small. You know, I maybe could have taken that power shrine and gone back and tried to finish them off, but still, without resetting my charges, it would have taken a little longer. I mean, you're not going to be pushing at the top of your game unless you're fishing. Anyways, you know, same goes for Whirlwind and whatnot. Hoda is a little more friendly because Hoda's really good at single targets as well. So you can kind of get away with worse rifts, and we're going to skip these guys. You can kind of get away with worse rifts on a Hoda build. Just because it's really good at single target damage and AoE damage. And we've got another elite in here, so we're actually gonna... Did those other guys come? They are coming. Yeah, anyways, as I was saying, Hoda build does really good in both scenarios, and so it's the one that's probably going to be the most consistent. This and Whirlwind require a lot of density to really shine. Leapquake's kind of the same way. Earthquake really does about the same amount. You know, it doesn't really have a big AoE bonus, but it's an AoE skill. So kind of in the same way, it requires a lot of density to really shine. And we're starting to struggle here. We've got 2. Let's come down here and get us some stacks. We still aren't getting stacks. And we've just got the 2 here, and they don't want to follow us. Come on, guys. What are you doing? Now, like I said, I'm kind of just charging around like a bull in a china shop. Reset. But it's when it gets like this that, to me, it gets really annoying trying to... I mean, if you can get them down to just 1, but then it usually ends up being 2 like that, in which case you can't do your damage. You can't do any of that. So, but there we go. We got them. Not a big deal. And this is usually a good floor, unless you get these. Unless you get a lot of those bogans or ice clans or whatever they are. We need to find another elite. Although we are pretty close, we could probably just clear some good density and be good. Yeah, there we go. Rift Guardians with adds are good for this build, but only if they summon a lot of adds. The Skeleton King, he can be quite the pain. Yes, he can be quite the pain. And, oh, we ran out of... Oh, look, there's summoning an add, too. So this guy can be quite the pain as well. So we're going to see if he can't summon a few more for us here. Uh-oh. Wah! Man. And then we can't get our cooldowns. There we go. We've got kind of a group here. Uh-oh. Ah! Yeah, maybe just let this guy summon in a bunch of adds and then wait for your physical roll and hope that they stand close enough to get you some resets. You can do something like this if you like. You can run away from them, but they may follow you. So we'll just keep running away. Hopefully he'll teleport. Maybe we'll get lucky and get a shrine. Come on, buddy. There we go. And those guys just keep following us. And if we can actually do damage to this guy, but I'm actually going to leave this up because you guys saw how it played. You don't need to see me successfully do the rift, but I think it'll actually be more beneficial for you guys to see how the build does struggle in certain situations. Now, if you play this build and you're really good, you may have already seen a way to kind of overcome this. But to me, when they just summon a couple of adds like this, it's really, really difficult. Because, I mean, I just don't see what else you can do. You've seen how long we've had on the Rift Guardian. If we were able to constantly attack him, we could have killed him. But yeah, we can't. I mean, we can kind of charge like this, but then we're still going to end up killing Still going to end up killing some of them off and not getting our charges because they're just too spread out and they're summoning in just too slow. There, we've got a few of them lined up. But I'm not going to drag this video on, you know, just so you guys can see me kill the guy. You guys have seen Rift bosses die before. So I hope you guys enjoyed this build. If you're going to play it, wow, look at those rats all running in a line. Let me know if you're going to play it. Let me know what you think of the build. And if you guys have any tips and tricks on it, I probably won't be playing it as a main, but I do certainly load it up and play it sometimes. It's still a lot of fun. Again, you'll need the right Rift and the right Rift Guardian, similar to Whirlwind. Whirlwind you can play regardless, but it's not really going to shine unless, you know, unless you get the right Rift. So, but yeah, anyways, I've gone on long enough, so thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like and a comment, and subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you guys again for watching. I do appreciate it. Much more to come. Take care.